What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, 2014 NHL first round playoff prediction videos. They're finally here. The playoffs start on Wednesday. We've got some intriguing matchups in the first round in both the Eastern and Western conferences. And I smell something on the air, and what I smell is upsets. Just want to take a moment before we get into things to thank the couple of YouTubers who did point out that I had the playoff format wrong in my earlier two videos. Just to take a second here, we're just going to talk about exactly what the playoff format is before we talk about the matchups. Each conference now has two divisions. Those divisions each had a division winner. Now, the way the playoff format is set up is each division sends at least 3 teams to the playoffs. There are also 2 wildcard teams that could come from either divisions. So each division could send a maximum of 5 teams to the playoffs. You have your 1, 2, 3 in your first division, your 1, 2, 3 in your second division, and then your 2 wildcard teams. The highest point totaled division winner, so your number 1 division winner, plays your lowest point totaled wildcard team. The second highest point totaled division winner plays the first highest wildcard team. And then the number 2 and number 3 teams in each division play each other. Simple enough? Glad we got it cleared up. Let's look at these playoff matchups. We'll start in the Eastern Conference like normal, where the Atlantic number 1 seed Boston Bruins, who won the President's Trophy, they have the right to play the number 2 wildcard team in the Eastern Conference, which happens to be the Detroit Red Wings. Season series here, surprisingly, Detroit won 3 of the 4 games between these two teams in the season series, outscoring Boston 13-9. Now, Boston had the number 3 ranked offense in the league this year, averaging 3.15 goals per game, and only allowed 2.08 per game, which was second best in the league. Detroit, on the other hand, was ranked number 16 in the league in both of these categories, scoring an average of 2.65, but giving up an average of 2.7. On special teams, Boston was also top 10 in both power play and penalty kill effectiveness. On the power play, they were 21.7%, ranked 3rd in the league, and their penalty kill ranked 8th in the league this year at 83.6%. On the other side, Detroit had a not the greatest power play this year, 17.7%, ranked 18th in the league. Their penalty kill was a bit better, ranking inside the top 12 at 83%. Boston also generates a ton of shots, just under 32 shots a game, which ranked 5th best in the league. And yet somehow, Detroit won 3 of the 4 games this year. This series, like every other series, is going to come down to a major list of X factors, and each team has a bunch of different X factors, a bunch of different reasons why they could win. I'd like to highlight one for each team. I think one of the major X factors for Boston is momentum. They won the President's Trophy. They've made at least the conference semifinals 4 out of the last 5 years, including winning the Cup in 2011 and making it to the Cup finals last year. This is essentially, in its essence, the same unit that has done all of those things, so Boston's got momentum on their side. And one of the biggest X factors for Detroit is their coaching staff. Mike Babcock, I personally believe, is among the all-time greatest coaches to coach in the NHL. He's won the Cup before. He's made the finals 3 times. He has won at every coaching level he's been on. National, international, junior. He's won everywhere. Mike Babcock, one of the elites of all time. And I'm going to start you off with a real killer here. I think Detroit's going to upset Boston. Call me crazy. Boston is a fantastic team. They are among the elite teams in the NHL. I just think Detroit's got their number this year. In the Eastern Conference, Atlantic number 1 versus wildcard number 2, I am officially predicting the Detroit Red Wings at wildcard position number 2 will upset the President's Trophy winning Boston Bruins in 7 games. I think they split games 1 and 2 in Boston. I think they split games 3 and 4 in Detroit. I think Boston takes game 5 at home. I think Detroit takes game 6 at home. And I think Detroit wins a very close, tight, low-scoring Game 7 to move on to the second round. The other Atlantic Division matchup sees Atlantic number 2 Tampa Bay Lightning take on Atlantic number 3 Montreal Canadiens. Just so you know, in the interest of full disclosure, Montreal is my team. The season series saw Tampa Bay win 3 of the 4 games, but only outscore Montreal 8-5. That indicates to me very low scoring. As a matter of fact, 3 of the 4 games ended by a single goal. Tampa Bay had a top 10 scoring offense this year, averaging 2.83 goals per game, ranking them 9th in the league. They also only allowed 2.55 per game on the back of some really solid goaltending. Montreal, on the other hand, had a bottom 10 ranked offense this year, only generating just over 2.5 goals per game. However, in terms of goals allowed, they did rank inside the top 10 at just 2.45. Now, with that goals against number for Montreal, part of the tip of the hat has to go to their penalty kill, 85.1% on the year, ranking them 4th in the league. Neither one of these teams had a really good power play this year. Tampa's was a little bit better, 18.5%, ranked them 13th in the league, where Montreal was only tied for 19th at 17.2%. Tampa Bay, however, had an abysmal penalty kill at only 80.7%, which ranked them tied for 23rd. Neither team was able to average 30 shots on goal per game. Tampa Bay came closest at 29.8. Tampa Bay, another thing remarkable about them, they only gave up 29.2, which was actually 13th best in the league. Tampa Bay is not necessarily known as a real defensive team, but they did a decent job keeping pucks away from their net. One of the major X factors for Tampa Bay in this series is going to be getting lots of shots. Tampa Bay is going to want to maintain that dynamic, that smart offense, lean on their top scorers and their effective two-way game. In terms of Montreal, they're going to live and die in this playoffs on their special teams. Montreal's power play wasn't the greatest this year, but Tampa Bay's penalty kill was nothing short of abysmal. So Montreal needs to take advantage of every single opportunity that Tampa Bay gives them. They need to play smart, they need to take very few penalties, and they need to kill the ones they take. Might be going a bit against the numbers on this one. Might be being a little bit of a homer on this one too. I do think Montreal can win this series. I think outside of getting to play Columbus, I think, and that's no disrespect to Columbus, but given the other teams that made the playoffs, I think this would be the most favorable matchup for Montreal. They're a team in Tampa Bay that is very similar to them. So I actually like Montreal in this series. I think Montreal wins this series in 6 games. I think they split the first 2 games in Tampa. They split games 3 and 4 in Montreal. Montreal goes into Tampa and beats them in Game 5. And in Game 6, on home ice, Montreal clinches the series. On to the Metropolitan Division, where Metropolitan number 1 Pittsburgh Penguins gets to play the top-ranked wildcard team, which, as I mentioned, is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Season series here was a gong show. 5-0 Pittsburgh, outscoring Columbus 16-7 in those 5 games. Pittsburgh had a top 5 offense this year, 2.95 goals per game, ranking them exactly 5th. They also had a top 10 defense, allowing only 2.49. Columbus, also very respectable in both of these regards. They were in the top half of the league, the 12th best offense at 2.76 goals per game, the 13th best defense at 2.61. Pittsburgh was tied for the best power play in the league this year at 23.4%. That is a huge number. That was ahead of the rest of the pack by a good margin. They also had a top 5 penalty kill this year at exactly 85%. While Columbus fell just outside the top 10 in power play efficiency at 19.3% and was only tied for 14th on the penalty kill at 82.1. Kind of surprisingly, Pittsburgh was only able to generate the 16th most shots in the league this year at 29.9 per game. They were, however, a top 10 team in shots against, allowing only 28.8. Columbus, by comparison, ranked only 19th and 20th in those respective categories. One of the major X factors here for Pittsburgh: be dominant, demoralize, score early, score often, prove that you are the team that you are on paper, outshoot, outplay. You did it all season against these guys, now do it when it counts. And one of the major X factors that I feel for the Columbus Blue Jackets this year is embrace the underdog role. You're going to be there anyway. There's no reason not to embrace it. All of the numbers say that Pittsburgh is going to destroy you in this series, so the only logical thing to do is play like you got nothing to lose. But that is easier said than done, and I do feel that Pittsburgh is going to walk all over Columbus, unfortunately, in this series. I am willing to give Columbus 1 game on the back of Sergei Bobrovsky, who I do believe is one of the best goaltenders in the league. But my official prediction is that Pittsburgh will beat Columbus in 5 games. Pittsburgh wins the first 2 games on home ice. They split games 3 and 4 in Columbus, then go back to Pittsburgh, where Pittsburgh wins it in Game 5 on home ice. And the other matchup in the Metropolitan Division sees Metropolitan number 2 New York Rangers taking on Metropolitan number 3 Philadelphia Flyers. Season series here was even, 2 games apiece. The Rangers did outscore the Flyers 10-8. In terms of actual production this season, goals for and goals against, these two teams are exact opposites. New York only generated 2.61 goals per game, which only tied them for 18th in the league this year, where if you look at Philadelphia, they had a top 10 offense at 2.84 goals per game. But on the defensive side, New York was top 5 in the league in goals against, allowing only 2.32 per game, a tip of the hat to Henrik Lundqvist. Philadelphia allowed 2.77 goals per game, ranking them 20th. One of the big boons for Philadelphia this year was their special teams play, ranking them 8th on the power play at 19.7% and 7th on the penalty kill at 84.8%. The Rangers did have the 3rd best penalty kill in the league this year at 85.3%, but did only manage to be ranked 15th on the power play at 18.2%. New York is one of the elite teams in the NHL this year at generating shots, ranking them 2nd in the league at 33.2 shots per game. And while Philadelphia does generate over 30 shots a game on average, they did only rank 14th in the league, only ranking 19th in the league in shots allowed. A major X factor for the Rangers in this series, they gotta score first. The Rangers' winning percentage this year when they score the first goal versus the Flyers' winning percentage when the first goal is scored against them is staggering. The Rangers ranked 6th in the league this year, winning 81.6% of the games in which they score first. Comparatively, Philadelphia was only middle of the pack, winning 30.2% of the games in which they were scored against first. The Rangers are also one of the elite teams in the league this year at closing out games, winning well above 90% of the games that they lead after 2 periods. So it is imperative that the Rangers score first. Major X factor for the Flyers? This has got to be a team that takes advantage of their opportunities. The Flyers do boast a better face-off percentage than do the Rangers this year, and what that equates to is puck control. The Flyers are going to be able to win more face-offs, control more pucks, and when they do get the opportunity to be on the power play, or even really to kill a penalty, Henrik Lundqvist's save percentage on special teams this year drops significantly. The big bulk of his save percentage comes 5-on-5, but even when his team is on a power play or when his team is trying to kill a penalty, Lundqvist's save percentage dips way down below 900 in both cases. So that is really when Philadelphia is going to have to take advantage of those opportunities. While I do think that the Rangers are going to give the Flyers plenty of opportunity in this series, mistakes will be made. That is situational at best. So the fact that the Flyers are relying on that troubles me. I do think the Rangers are the better team here overall. I'm going to take the Rangers to beat the Flyers. But I am going to give Philadelphia some credit. The Rangers, I believe, are going to beat the Flyers, but it's going to take them 6 games. I think the Rangers do win games 1 and 2 in New York. I think they split games 3 and 4 in Philadelphia. Philadelphia wins on the road in Game 5, but I think New York clinches it in Philadelphia in Game 6. All right, folks, that's the Eastern Conference. Just to run it down here for you one more time, I've got wild card number 2, Detroit Red Wings, upsetting Atlantic number 1 Boston Bruins in 7 games. The other matchup in the Atlantic Division, I have Montreal at number 3, beating Tampa Bay at number 2 in 6 games. We look at Metropolitan number 1 Pittsburgh. I think they're going to beat wildcard number 1 Columbus in 5 games. And the other Metropolitan series, the number 2 ranked New York Rangers, I believe will beat the number 3 ranked Philadelphia Flyers in 6 games. That's the Eastern Conference, folks. We're going to move on to the Western Conference in the next video. See you in a minute.